There are certain places on this earth that humans have spoken about for millennia, yet even now, nobody truly understands what secrets they hold. Mount Sinai is one such place. It is widely regarded as the holy mountain where Moses was given the Ten Commandments directly from God. For generations, people have viewed it as a beacon of faith. Yet there have always been those who insisted that something hidden lies deep beneath this mountain, a secret that was deliberately concealed from the rest of humanity. Ancient tales speak of strange glowing lights visible here during the darkest hours of night. Eerie sounds rose from somewhere far beneath the earth, and those who attempted to dig at particular spots were never quite the same when they came back. Most dismissed these accounts as folklore and nothing more. But not long ago, a team of researchers uncovered a sealed structure buried under the mountain. When a small robotic device was sent into that mysterious space, what appeared on its camera feed left every single person present utterly speechless. Now, the burning question is, why exactly is Mount Sinai regarded as one of the most enigmatic mountains anywhere on Earth? What quality does it possess that, even after so many thousands of years, people still feel compelled to seek it out? Ancient tradition holds that Moses once climbed this mountain entirely alone. According to religious teaching, it was on this very summit that he received the Ten Commandments from God, a message widely considered one of the most sacred guides ever given to humankind. That single moment awarded the mountain a remarkable position in both history and religious belief, which is exactly why it holds significance not only to one faith, but to three of the world's major religions. In Judaism, it is revered as the place where divine law was first delivered to humanity. In Christianity, it stands as a powerful symbol of God's authority and compassion. In Islam, the mountain is held in deep reverence as well, since it is believed that the prophet Moses communicated directly with Allah upon its slopes. Throughout the centuries, people from every corner of the world have made their way to this mountain. Some arrive to offer prayers, others come carrying their deepest wishes and personal hopes. And still others simply want to lay their own eyes on the place they have been hearing about since they were children. Even under the brutal heat of the desert sun and along the demanding rocky trails, people willingly walk for hours just to stand at its peak. Yet the most captivating thing about Mount Sinai is not religion alone. A great many people believe this is the very spot where the boundary separating earth from heaven grows its thinnest. Put simply, it is a place where human beings and divine power are said to have once come face to face. And perhaps that is precisely why accounts of strange illuminations, unexplained sounds, and unresolved mysteries continue to circulate around this mountain to this very day. Nestled at the base of Mount Sinai sits a place wrapped in countless stories of its own. It goes by the name of St. Catherine's Monastery. It is thought to have been established during the 6th century, constructed on the orders of the Byzantine Emperor Justinian. What makes it especially remarkable is that despite its extraordinary age, it is still recognized as one of the oldest continuously functioning Christian monasteries anywhere in the world. But the true identity of this monastery goes well beyond its weathered stone walls. Within its grounds lies a site connected to the burning bush, the very spot where, according to religious belief, Moses first heard the voice of God speaking to him. Because of this connection, millions of pilgrims have passed through the monastery across the centuries. Over that long stretch of time, thousands of ancient manuscripts and sacred documents were gathered and preserved within its walls. It is said that some of the most precious handwritten records known to exist have been kept safe here. But numerous researchers suspect that beyond all of these visible treasures, there may also be secret archives tucked away somewhere inside, records that have never been made available to the outside world. The most compelling development came when a group of European scholars began asking pointed questions about tunnels and concealed chambers buried beneath the mountain. It is said that whenever these inquiries were raised, the senior monks of the monastery would go completely quiet. More often than not, they would simply walk away without offering a single word in response, then begin murmuring prayers under their breath. On one particular occasion, an explorer put the question plainly: was there truly a hidden secret beneath this mountain? At that moment, one elderly monk offered only a single reply: "The mountain keeps what it takes," meaning that whatever this mountain draws into itself, it never releases. And perhaps those few quiet words are what continue to deepen the greatest mystery surrounding Mount Sinai, even today. The Bedouin tribes who have made their home around this mountain for centuries carry stories that still send shivers down the spine. According to their accounts, faint blue lights occasionally appear near the mountain's lower slopes during the dead of night. These lights seem to drift through the air for a few brief moments, shift from spot to spot, and then vanish without a trace. Certain people believe them to be signs of angels, while others feel they signal the presence of some unseen and powerful force. And it is not only the lights. There are those who have reported hearing soft, indistinct voices drifting through the nighttime air, as if someone were speaking gently from a very great distance, yet nobody was ever found nearby. Many shepherds grew so unnerved by these strange occurrences that they eventually refused to enter that area once night had fallen. The stories passed down among the Bedouin also speak of particular caves, where entry is considered absolutely forbidden. They believe that guardians have stood watch over something sacred inside those caves for thousands upon thousands of years. Anyone who dares to enter without proper reverence, the stories warn, is never the same person when they emerge. And this is where yet another well-known tale enters the picture. Some people hold the belief that the original stone tablets presented to Moses, along with the sacred Ark of the Covenant, were concealed somewhere deep beneath this mountain. As the years passed, this belief grew into a legend of a cursed treasure. Many are said to have gone searching for it, but not one person ever uncovered the truth. Perhaps that is why Mount Si continues to be counted among the most mysterious places on the planet to this day. Ancient scrolls, copper plates, and a lost map. When it comes to the riddles surrounding Mount Si, it is not only the legends that spark curiosity. Certain old pieces of physical evidence have also come to light over the years, and each one has only made the mystery run deeper. It is said that many centuries back, Byzantine monks residing at St. Catherine's Monastery uncovered several ancient scrolls sealed inside aged clay jars. When those scrolls were carefully opened, they did not contain a single language. Rather, they displayed a mixture of old scripts, including Hebrew, Aramaic, and Proto-Sinaitic. Most of the scrolls were filled with religious prayers and old messages, but one particular scroll stood apart from all the others. It described a hidden chamber that, according to what was written, had not been constructed by human hands, but had come into existence through divine command. The text stated that this secret chamber lay beneath the very sacred mountain where Moses had received the laws of God. It is said that after reading those words, the monks grew deeply frightened and sealed the scroll once more, concealing it within the monastery's secret archives. As the years went by, the story faded from memory almost entirely. But toward the close of the 17th century, another discovery pulled the mystery straight back into the light. In 1693, an Italian explorer by the name of Matteo di Rossi journeyed to the Sinai Peninsula. While there, he encountered a group of nomadic people who placed an old copper plate into his hands. Unusual lines and symbols had been carved all across its surface. When Matteo carried the plate back to Rome and scholars sat down to examine it, they came to understand that those markings were far from ordinary drawings. When traced together, they appeared to form a map of Mount Si, but the most astonishing detail was that the map also showed a wide spiral path leading downward beneath the mountain, as though it were pointing to an underground tunnel or some kind of hidden passage. Certain scholars felt it was nothing more than a religious symbol representing the journey of the soul. Others, however, believed it was genuinely a map of a secret route running below the mountain. The mystery only grew heavier when, a short while later, the copper plate vanished from the archives in Rome without any explanation. It was never recovered, yet the notes and old records written about it during that time still survive to this day. And that is exactly why so many people hold the belief that the key to whatever lies hidden beneath Mount Si may well have been contained within that missing copper plate. But the greatest question of all is this: could there still be something beneath that mountain that is alive? For many years, explorers and geologists working throughout the region have spoken openly about strange occurrences. They reported that the moment they entered certain sections of the mountain, their compasses ceased to point in the right direction. The needle would begin spinning suddenly and without cause, as though some unknown force were acting upon it. Electronic equipment frequently stopped functioning as well. Cameras would shut off, sensors would fail, and radio signals would fade to almost nothing. Some scientists have suggested that unusual magnetic minerals beneath the mountain might be responsible, yet no one has ever produced a definitive answer. The mystery grew stranger still when odd vibrations rising up from underground were actually recorded. These vibrations bore no resemblance whatsoever to earthquake activity. They repeated every few seconds with a steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, as though some enormous heart were pulsing far beneath the surface of the earth. What is interesting is that stories of this kind are nothing new. Around the 12th century, the Bedouin tribes passed down a tale claiming that a great sleeping creature lay breathing beneath the mountain. It is said that one man once attempted to dig at that very spot, but the instant his tools struck a surface beneath the sand that was unnervingly smooth and impossibly hard, they shattered completely. Out of fear, that place was given the name Maktaf al-Nure, meaning the path of light. Even now, local people say that animals behave in unusual ways around that area. Goats refuse to enter certain spots. Birds will not build their nests there, and many shepherds claim that on still and quiet nights, they can hear soft whispers drifting on the wind. Perhaps that is why some people continue to believe that beneath Mount Sinai there is not merely rock and sand, but a hidden mystery that may still be very much awake. Ancient predictions and modern satellite images. As the years moved on, the stories woven around Mount Sinai kept growing. But the real shift came when certain old documents surfaced once more before the eyes of the world. Historians unearthed a long-forgotten manuscript buried among ancient Coptic writings, a document that virtually no one had ever come across before. It spoke of a place lying buried beneath sand and stone. One particular line written within that manuscript has kept researchers turning it over in their minds for years. Sand will move and stones will speak. In other words, the time would come when the sand would shift away and the stones themselves would reveal their story. In the beginning, people assumed it was simply a religious metaphor. Certain historians argued it was no more than a spiritual message. But when the location clues described in the manuscript were placed alongside modern maps, something remarkable emerged. Many of those markings lined up with areas surrounding Mount Sinai. Meanwhile, technology from the 21st century breathed fresh life into this old mystery. When scientists examined images of the mountain's southern region captured through satellite imaging, they noticed several puzzling things. At certain moments, bright flashes of reflection would appear above the ground for just a few seconds before vanishing completely. Initially, experts assumed it was simply sunlight bouncing off minerals embedded in the rock. But when images recorded at different times were laid side by side, they discovered that these flashes did not appear in precisely the same location each time. Several researchers were instantly reminded of the ancient Bedouin tales describing blue dancing lights that appeared during the night. What was so striking was that many of the reflections captured by the satellite had been recorded in the same general areas where those mysterious lights had been reported for centuries. It almost felt as though the old legends and modern science were not separate things at all, but simply two different pieces of the very same story. As word of this began to circulate, people's curiosity intensified considerably. Scholars from across the globe returned to dusty old documents, ancient maps, and historical travel records. Everyone hoped that somewhere along the way, a small but crucial detail had been missed, something that might finally put the mystery to rest. But around that same period, something else rather unusual occurred. After some time had passed, ordinary visitors were no longer permitted to enter that area at all. The official explanation was that the decision had been taken to safeguard the region's archaeological heritage. Governments pointed to preservation legislation, and certain sections were formally declared restricted zones. But as tends to happen, the tighter the restrictions, the more questions people feel compelled to ask. Many became convinced that governments had discovered something there that they were deliberately keeping from the public. Some thought there might be an enormous metal structure buried beneath the earth, while others began connecting the site to some mysterious and unknown energy source. All manner of theories started making their way across social media platforms and research discussion forums. Throughout all of this, some of the most compelling work was being carried out by historians. They began unsealing old archives once more, centuries-old scrolls, misplaced maps, Bedouin oral traditions, monks' personal diaries, and long-forgotten written records were retrieved and examined one after another. What was remarkable was that nearly every account, in one form or another, seemed to lead back to the very same mountain. What exactly did the ground-penetrating radar manage to uncover? As technology continued to move forward, scientists found themselves with access to equipment capable of seeing several meters below the Earth's surface without any need for digging whatsoever. That was the point at which this whole mystery took an entirely unexpected direction. Researchers arriving from various corners of the world began applying advanced scanning technologies in and around Mount Sinai. The most significant among these tools was ground-penetrating radar, commonly known as GPR. This technology works by sending radio waves deep into the soil and then constructing a detailed picture of what lies below by reading the signals that bounce back. When the southern face of the mountain was scanned for the very first time, the initial readings appeared completely unremarkable. But as additional data began populating the computer screens, the looks on the scientists' faces started to shift noticeably. Deep beneath the surface, they could make out a vast, empty space with striking clarity. And the most astonishing aspect of it was that its shape appeared almost perfectly rectangular. Natural caves tend to be irregular and rough-edged. Yet this particular space seemed to have clean, straight lines and symmetrical boundaries. It gave the impression that someone had deliberately constructed it many thousands of years before. Following that initial scan, the same location was studied further through three-dimensional mapping. Once the computer-generated model was fully rendered, it showed that this was not merely a modest chamber, but potentially an enormous structure extending across several meters underground. Word of this finding gradually began spreading through academic and research circles. Certain historians proposed that it could be an ancient storage vault where significant religious artifacts had once been concealed. A number of people even began drawing connections to the Ark of the Covenant. At the very same time, several scientists put forward the argument that it might simply be a natural geological formation shaped by processes occurring deep within the Earth over vast stretches of time. But things did not stop there. While the scanning work was ongoing, excavations along the mountain's outer surface brought a number of ancient remnants to light. Fragments of pottery, copper implements, and peculiar engravings on rocks that specialists could not readily identify were all uncovered. Many of the markings bore resemblance to Hebrew and Proto-Sinaitic script, while others looked altogether different from anything previously catalogued. A selection of these objects was dispatched to laboratories for carbon dating analysis. Scientists anticipated that the test results would establish their approximate age, but when the findings came back, the mystery only deepened further. Certain samples turned out to be thousands of years older than the most ancient known settlements anywhere in that region. Meanwhile, other objects appeared to be comparatively recent in origin. It seemed as though items belonging to entirely separate historical periods had somehow converged in the very same location. These carbon dating outcomes caught even the scientists off guard. Some suggested the samples may have suffered contamination, while other researchers felt that the full history of Mount Sinai could be far older and considerably more layered than anyone had previously dared to imagine. As these revelations began entering the public sphere, the controversy surrounding the site grew sharply. Religious organizations maintained that the location was profoundly sacred and that no excavation should be permitted beneath it under any circumstances. They worried that human ambition might disturb something that had remained protected and undisturbed for countless generations. Scientists, on the other hand, argued that if a man-made structure truly lay hidden below, uncovering and understanding, it could stand as one of the most extraordinary discoveries ever made in human history. As a consequence, political disagreements dragged on for a great many years. Local governing bodies, religious figures, and archaeological professionals continued debating endlessly over whether the investigation should be allowed to proceed. Yet by that point, one thing had grown increasingly difficult to dispute. There was unmistakably something beneath Mount Sinai that defied ordinary explanation. Modern instruments continued pointing toward the very same concealed location, time and time again, as ground-penetrating radar and three-dimensional scanning steadily reinforced the possibility that a large hidden structure lay beneath Mount Sinai. Researchers from every part of the world redirected their focus toward the mountain. Eventually, after long years of debate and meticulous preparation, an international expedition was officially launched, one that many regarded as among the most significant archaeological undertakings of the modern era. Specialists from more than 10 nations joined this collaborative mission, and it was not limited to archaeologists alone. Egyptologists, biblical historians, geologists, engineers, and experts in cutting-edge robotic technology all came together under one shared purpose. Their collective aim was to find out what was truly concealed beneath the mountain while causing absolutely no harm in the process. Because this site held deep spiritual significance for millions of people around the world, conventional excavation methods were simply not an option. No heavy drilling equipment or large-scale machinery was brought in. Instead, the team committed entirely to non-invasive technological approaches. Right from the start, the team made use of laser scanners, pressure sensors, high-resolution cameras, and small robotic devices to collect data from within the structure without causing any harm to it. A sizable research camp was established at the foot of the mountain. From the outside, it resembled a cutting-edge laboratory far more than a typical dig site. Large monitors displayed real-time data streaming up from underground, and scientists watched each tiny reading on those screens with great care. But this was anything but a straightforward mission. The desert conditions threw a fresh challenge at the team nearly every single day. Sudden sandstorms frequently brought all work to a halt. The extreme heat caused many of the machines to overheat, and when temperatures dropped at night, certain pieces of equipment simply refused to function correctly. The strangest development came when several sensors began failing without any obvious explanation. Signals would cut out without warning on multiple occasions. Laser scans would come back incomplete, and some electronic devices started picking up unusual interference. The scientists put it down to magnetic activity in the area. The local people, on the other hand, would just smile quietly and say, "The mountain still wishes to hold on to its secrets." After weeks of non-stop scanning and carefully managed excavation work, the moment the entire world had been anticipating finally came. Beneath thick layers of rock, the scientists uncovered something that brought a complete hush over the whole camp. Standing before them was an enormous doorway fashioned from sandstone. It bore no resemblance to a natural rock formation whatsoever. It looked, instead, as though someone had deliberately carved and positioned it there thousands of years in the past. As the surface was gradually cleared, the engravings on the door grew far more distinct. Specialists noted that it carried both ancient Hebrew and Proto-Sinaitic inscriptions. What made this particularly astonishing was that these two writing systems are generally thought to belong to separate eras in history, yet here they were, side by side. For hours, researchers worked to decipher the words. Early translations brought forward unusual terms, including fire, law, and guardians. Certain lines appeared to suggest that whatever lay below was under some form of protection. It felt almost as though someone thousands of years ago had deliberately left a message telling those who came later not to disturb what was hidden behind that door without genuine cause. Then came the hardest decision of all. Breaking the door down was never considered a reasonable option. Instead, the scientists made a tiny opening along one of its edges. The gap was just wide enough for a small robotic drone fitted with cameras and sensors to pass through. The instant the robot entered the darkened passage, every person inside the control room locked their gaze onto the screens. For a few seconds, there was nothing to see but complete darkness. Then, Gradually, a long and utterly silent corridor came into view. Its walls were formed of smooth stone, and they appeared untouched by the passage of time. As the drone pressed further ahead, its light began uncovering strange carvings along the walls. Some images depicted light coming down from the sky. In other sections, figures were shown kneeling before something that appeared to be sacred. A number of walls also featured shapes resembling large stone tablets, which reminded certain historians of the biblical account of Moses and the Ten Commandments. But this was only the start of it. Running along the corridor walls were unusual gleaming layers that were unlike any ordinary stone. Each time the drone's light fell upon them, they emitted a soft glow, almost as though tiny crystals had been set into the surface. When the robot aimed its camera downward, it captured a fine, golden-colored dust spread across the floor. A little further ahead, several large stone boxes were visible, resting against the wall. They were entirely sealed, and it appeared as though no one had gone near them in centuries. At that moment, the scientists seated in the control room understood they were not peering into a simple cave, but standing at the threshold of a mysterious vault whose secrets might one day reshape the history of the whole world. As the robot pushed further into the passage, the images appearing on the screen grew increasingly remarkable. The true shock, however, came when it reached a vast chamber at the far end of the corridor. The moment the camera's beam swept across the room, every person watching went utterly silent for a few long moments. Positioned right at the center of the chamber was an enormous stone structure. It was shaped like a great chest. Its outer surface was coated with a golden layer and decorated with extraordinarily detailed carvings. Some of those images looked like stars, while others seemed to tell stories that no one could readily interpret. At first sight, a number of experts described it as bearing a resemblance to the Ark of the Covenant, though no one was in a position to confirm that. Several other objects were arranged around the large chest. Broken stone tablets lay nearby, with faint writing still just visible on their surfaces. Some historians believed these could form part of a very early religious record. Close by, a number of sealed scrolls were discovered, though nobody could identify the script used on them. It did not appear to be fully Hebrew, nor did it correspond to any other recognized writing system. As the drone moved on, it brought still more unusual objects into view. There were small crystal-like pieces that seemed to emit a glow, along with strange fragments of metal resting nearby. Their form bore no resemblance to any ancient tools known to the historical record. Most puzzling of all, the sensors were picking up a faint trace of energy activity centered around these objects. Scientists ran checks on the equipment repeatedly, but the readings stayed consistent every time. Later, a small number of samples collected from the site were dispatched to laboratories for analysis. Scientists attempted to establish their age using carbon dating, but the results left even those experienced researchers genuinely astonished. Some of the samples turned out to be nearly 10,000 years old, while other objects appeared to belong to entirely different time periods altogether. It was as though relics from separate eras had been deliberately gathered and placed within the very same room. As the investigation continued, yet another unexpected detail surfaced. The materials used in that structure and in several of the metal objects did not match the stones or metals typically found anywhere near Mount Sinai. According to the earliest reports, those materials seemed to have been carried in from somewhere far away. By this point, the question was no longer simply about what had been discovered inside the vault. The real question had shifted to how these objects had arrived there thousands of years ago, and who had taken such careful steps to preserve them inside this mysterious chamber. The moment the first images of that hidden vault beneath Mount Sinai were revealed to the world, excitement spread like wildfire. What had previously existed only within old tales and ancient legends had suddenly become the biggest story on the entire planet. Television networks, newspapers, and the internet were all circling around the same burning question. Had the greatest mystery in all of human history finally been brought to light? Within just a few days, prominent religious figures from Christianity, Judaism, and Islam had begun taking a keen interest in the find. Scholars belonging to every major faith started drawing connections between the site and their own sacred histories. Some were convinced it was a holy place where divine messages had been sheltered and preserved, while others felt it could represent the reality behind age-old prophecies. At the same time, thousands of pilgrims from across the globe started making their way to Mount Sinai. People wanted to witness with their own eyes the mountain now being described as one that had finally revealed its deepest secret after thousands of years of silence. Authorities were forced to put strict security arrangements in place throughout the surrounding area. Yet rather than dying down, public fascination only continued to grow stronger with each passing day. Scientists found themselves just as divided. Certain experts were of the view that it could be a divine vault, a space deliberately constructed to safeguard sacred knowledge. Others argued that perhaps an advanced ancient civilization had once existed, one possessing knowledge and technology far beyond anything we are capable of imagining today. But the most breathtaking discovery was still yet to come. In the deepest section of the vault, researchers uncovered a circular stone platform. Resting at its center was a large, transparent crystal sphere, roughly the size of a human head. The strangest part was that it was emitting a faint, steady glow, and its color shifted gradually over time. Yet not a single wire, machine, or identifiable energy source could be found anywhere near it. Close to the platform, an ancient inscription had been carved directly into the wall. Its meaning was interpreted as guardian of divine words. After those words were read aloud, countless people began asking the very same question. Had this place not been built to protect treasure at all, but rather to guard a hidden body of knowledge that had been deliberately kept from the world? Even now, the debate surrounding this discovery has not quieted down. Some people regard it as a miracle rooted in faith. Others describe it as the single greatest archaeological find in recorded history. And there are those who believe it stands as proof of a lost and forgotten ancient civilization. Yet through every argument and discussion, one question continues to go unanswered. Is humanity at last standing face to face with a truth that has been concealed for thousands upon thousands of years? Or does Mount Sinai still hold its greatest secret, locked tightly away from the rest of the world? If stories about mysterious and extraordinary discoveries like this one fascinate you, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss videos like these before anyone else gets to see them.